Welcome to another episode of Pistons of Fury. In this episode, we're going to dig into our old Mopar 318 small block and find out exactly what went wrong. Alright, this is the old 318. So what we need to do is I need to kind of take all this stuff, put it in a Rubbermaid bin. I'm actually going to try to disassemble this as much as possible. I'm curious to see what happened to the bottom end, which means I need to drain the oil and pull off the oil pan, probably pull off this damper and the front cover as well. I'm giving this away on Facebook Marketplace just because it needs a rebuild, it's old, tired, and honestly I need my engine stand back because we need to pull the LS out of the wagon for painting and stuff like that. So this is getting disassembled and hopefully out of here today or this weekend or in the next couple days. And yeah, just gotta dig it out from here. So that's what this episode's gonna be about. Son of a... And we're back. Okay, nothing like starting your day with a nice super fun level cleanup. So that really sucked and that was a stupid idea. So, pro tip, if you are disassembling an engine on a stand, drain the oil like you would normally drain the oil out of your drain plug, which is still intact in my oil pan here, so that you don't spill it all over your floor and under your garage door and out into your driveway. Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna rotate the engine over, probably pull off my timing chains. This is a nice double roller setup, which is now gonna get donated with the rest of this junk. So yeah, gonna flip it over and we'll take a look at the bottom end and see what happened with this thing. Alright, got the timing chain off, and the problem here, and why I pulled this engine and kind of called it dead, is this situation here. I'm no engine master, but per my understanding of how engines work, this is not part of the equation here, this motion. So, what that means is we likely have a thrust bearing that dropped somewhere. There's actually nothing in the oil pan. So not exactly sure what happened, but I'm going to pull the rods, piston, and the crankshaft, and maybe we can see what happens. A little bit of a archaeology dig here, so we're just going to try to figure this part out. Alright, so here we are. Got the crankshaft out, and as you can see here, this center bearing is where the thrust bearing sits. So you kind of see here, this is a little bit different. Well, it's very different than the other bearings, right? This has basically 2 thrust bearings on either side of this main cap here, and that governs the fore and aft movement of the crankshaft, in which case this failed. So it doesn't appear that there's any damage to the block. There is a little bit of scuffing or a little bit of wear on the inside of that main, but it hasn't created a groove or anything. You can just kind of see it's barely there. So I think the future owner of this block has kind of dodged a bullet. But again, I am not an expert, and there might actually be a little bit of wear here too. So again, this isn't my forte. I'm not like an engine builder. So block seems to be okay. No issues with the pistons or rods or anything. I'll flip the engine back over and we'll take a look at the actual cylinders. But I think the issue is right here. So if you look in here, you can kind of see this is really worn, and I don't think it's supposed to be like that. So I believe the thrust bearing has basically just been wearing into the side of this part of the crank, and that this is done. So I think crankshaft's done. That's how I'm going to represent it to whoever comes and picks this junk up. But should be pretty easy to find one of these. A 318, or just use the block and throw in maybe like a 360 crank and do a little stroker scenario. I don't know. Not my problem. This is old junk, and it's getting out of here, which is the most important part. So last thing before we close this out, I'll flip this over and we'll just take a look at the cylinder bores, because we can, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Alright, so here this thing is. Let's see, I've got a little in my hand. So where these are at is we've got a little bit of lip on the top, and actually, interestingly, you can kind of see that and this is kind of known about these early 318s, is that the piston doesn't actually reach the top of the bore. At top dead center, it's slightly below, which kind of ends up with pretty low performance engines. So a lot of times what people will do is kind of mill aftermarket heads down, increase the compression, and actually make some decent power with these things. So there is a little bit of a lip, so this thing will need to be bored out, but it doesn't look like there's any damage to any of the cylinders. Yeah, there's no major scoring or anything aside from where the pistons were just sitting. So pretty good candidate for a rebuild, I think. Again, whoever inherits this will need to probably go talk to somebody and have it checked by an actual engine builder. But again, not my problem anymore. This thing is getting out of here. I can now take it off the stand and continue with the work that I should be doing instead of messing around with this old junk. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope this was informative. Any questions, throw them in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one.